Welcome, everyone, to today's author chat. My name is Christine Huang, and I'm the chair of the Bluestem Committee and your host for this time. We have an IO representative with us who will be overseeing our tech and also making sure that this session runs smoothly. And so we're very happy to have her. I would also like to welcome our two classroom winners. We have Miss Bence's class from Meadowbrook School, and we also have Miss Soul's class from Westmore Elementary School. We have an amazing author with us today. It is my pleasure to introduce Carolyn Mackler, author of Not If I Can Help It, excuse me. Carolyn, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey everyone. Happy Monday. How are you guys doing? Good. I can't hear you, so you can give me a thumbs up if you're doing well. Yay! So I'm Carolyn. I live in New York City, so I'm looking out my window over a big skyline, and I write novels for kids your age and teenagers and even adults. And I was so excited to find out that Not If I Can Help It was nominated for the Blue Stem. So thank you, Illinois. And Not If I Can Help It was a super, can you guys see it okay? Give me a thumbs up. It's a little blur. There we go. Not If I Can Help It was a super important story for me to write because it's about a girl who has a certain disability that people in my family have called sensory processing disorder, where it kind of feels like the world can feel a little overwhelming to you. And so I really wanted to be able to tell her story. And also, she is obsessed with dogs and has been promised a dog, but then something goes really, really, I'm not going to say wrong, but a really big change happens in her life that may make it hard for her to get a dog. And so when I said this story is really personal to me, I have two kids, and one of them has the disability that she has. And so we can talk about that. But also, guest starring today is my dog. Can you see her? This is Maple. She is part teddy bear and part golden doodle. And I wanted a dog so badly, just like Willa, and Not If I Can Help It. And I finally got her. And immediately I had to write her into a novel, which is why she is, without knowing this, one of the really, really star characters at the end of the book. So you can ask me any questions about me, about being a writer, about my kids, about this novel there, and of course, about Maple and what it's like for a dog to be in a book. Right, Maple? And so whenever you ask a question, I'll have her pop up if it's about her. Otherwise, she's just going to lie in my lap. There we go. Okay. And the other tip is that for a very long time, my older son wanted a dog. And we said, no, no, no. We live in an apartment in New York City. And so if any of you are trying to ask a parent for a dog, I can give you a special tip on the thing that our son said to us that made us finally get Maple. So I can give you a little secret tip to try out if all of your dog requests are not working. So thank you for having me, and ask anything you want.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction and for introducing Maple. I know I was excited when I saw her. So we'll get started with questions. We will alternate between classrooms, and if you can have the next person to ask the question kind of standing off to the side so that we can get through as many questions as possible, that would be really great. How about we start with Miss Bence's class? You can unmute and have that student approach the computer and also say your name nice and loud and your question as well.
My name is Ryan, and my question is there going to be a book too?
Oh, a sequel. Thank you so much for asking that. It's Ryan. How are you? There is not going to be a sequel to Not If I Can Help It, because when I finish a book, I usually try to get the characters exactly where I want them to be. And when I finished Not If I Can Help It, I felt like Willa and Ruby we're in a spot where I'm like, okay, they don't need me anymore. They can figure out their lives now. I've told that important part of their story. But I will say that I have a new novel for your age group coming out in March called Right Back at You. And it's really cool. It's about two kids who are 12 who find a way to write letters over like 36 years. They find a way that they can reach each other and talk about their lives. So, new novel, not a sequel.
Excellent. Miss Souls class?
My name is Taeyun, and my question is, what advice would you give us?
Oh, well, here I have a follow-up question for you. Do you want advice about being a writer? Do you want advice about being a kid? What?
Yeah, like an author, being an author.
Being an author. Got it. Okay. Well, I would say, so you guys want to write your own stories and maybe even turn them into books?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, totally. Why not? I would say the most important thing to do at your age is to read a ton, because that way you're putting all these stories into your head and that helps you figure out how you want to tell them. And I'm not going to say read the books that you think you should read or that people are telling you to read. Literally read what seems like fun to you. So it's about like starting that feeling like, oh my gosh, like reading is not a chore. It's really fun. So if it's graphic novels, if it's regular novels, if it's literally like almanacs, like read whatever's really fun for you and just start putting words in your head. And also, I love like carrying around a notebook and or even having one in my room. And whenever I think of an idea, I just scribble it down. And so making sure all my ideas are down. Your ideas are important. So just like scribble down ideas and don't try to make anything perfect or turn it into a book yet. So that is my advice.
Okay, thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Miss Spence's class.
My name is Claire.
Well, hold on. Yep. Go ahead.
My name is Claire Annitsberger, and can you tell us more about the sensory disorder?
Sure. Yeah. So it's called, thanks, Claire. It's called sensory processing disorder. And what Willa calls it in her book is like, she calls it to herself like an invisible, she feels like it's an invisible weird. And she feels weird. And she has to kind of learn that it's actually not so weird, that everyone has stuff that that's kind of feels invisible, but really kind of defines who they are. What it feels like is that sometimes everything in the world just feels really overwhelming. So sensory are like your senses. Can you guys kind of name your senses? Let's see. You've got hearing, right? Can you guys talk? Or are you muted? I just
They're
kind of name
muted.
your sense. You're muted. Okay, so you've got your, let's see if I get them all. Ready? Your hearing, your sight, your taste, your touch, and what am I missing? Hearing, sight, taste, touch. No, thank you. I saw you touch your nose, Christine. So sensory processing disorder feels like you've got all these senses, and instead of your body kind of figuring out how to like send them all these messages to your brain in a way that you're like, okay, it's loud, but I can deal with it, or oh, these seams in my socks are kind of feel touch, the touch is uncomfortable, but I can deal with it. You kind of can't deal with all of it. It's like you put on socks with seams and you're like, oh my God, I have to get them off right away. Or you feel like you taste something with a gross texture, and instead of being like, whatever, I'll just swallow it, you're like, oh, I get that texture out of my mouth. So your senses all just feel a little overwhelming. And so that's what Willa deals with, is like the world feels a little overwhelming to her. And she goes to an occupational therapist who works with her on figuring out how to like deal with this overwhelming stuff. But one thing that's really hard is like when things change, because she's like working so hard just to stay like grounded in the world, that when something changes, like in this book, her dad announces that he has fallen in love with her best friend's mom. She's like, I'm already dealing with just like being a person in this world. I can't deal with one more thing. So that is sensory processing disorder. And I can answer more questions about it, but that's kind of like the brief version of what it feels like to have it. And I'm sure some of you are like, oh my gosh, I totally know that feeling. I hate when tags are uncomfortable in my shirt, or I hate when like jeans squeeze too tight, right? So we all, all of us kind of have a little bit of that too.
Miss
Hi.
Stone's class. Yes.
My name is Eliza.
I'm Claire.
How many books have you written?
Oh, okay. So the one that comes out, remember I said the book called Right Back at You that comes out in March about the two kids writing letters across 36 years? That one is going to be my 12th book. And so I guess if we can count that one, I've written 12 novels.
And out of the 12 novels you've written, what's your favorite?
Oh, um, it's funny. I heard someone once say that they feel like their novels are like their kids. And so it's like saying like which is your favorite kid? And you can't, I feel like each one I worked on, like I totally loved it while I was writing it. And it felt so special to me. I would say actually my favorite novel is the one I'm working on right now. Not like the one I'm working on now, but it always is the one I'm writing right now because that one's the one that feels like it's in my head and I need to tell that story. When I finish, and this is kind of crazy, but I actually almost forget what I wrote about. So like it's like I'm totally in that world for let's say a year while I'm writing and I think about these characters all the time. And then by the time the book comes out, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, Carolyn, you have to remember what the book is about so you can talk to people about it." So like even before I talked to you guys, I got out the book and I was like, okay, Willa and Ruby and Dog. And I had to remind myself if that's crazy because it's like my head is all there and then I kind of move on. It's a little weird.
Thank
Thank-
you.
You got it. Thank you.
Miss Benson.
Hi, my name is Valentina, and what was your favorite book growing up?
Ooh. Well, I loved gosh, I love so many books. I'll start with like I loved have you guys ever read the Ramona Quimby books? By Beverly Cleary. I love the Ramona Quimby books because Ramona was like, I felt like when I was a kid, so many children's books were like, the girl is all good and she's so sweet and she always does the right thing. And Ramona was like bad, like got in trouble all the time and messed up and was like, she was so curious one time about like what would happen if I squeezed the whole tube of toothpaste into the sink. And she's like, I'm just going to do it. And I feel like that was kind of like I liked that because I liked reading about a girl who wasn't like perfect and polite and sweet, but was like kind of like messed up. So I loved that. I loved like the Judy Blume books like Super Fudge and Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing because I felt like they talked about like she talked about like that childhood isn't always easy, that it's like sometimes it's complicated and hard. And it was also really funny. So I loved that one. I love this book called Tuck Everlasting because it was about this girl who like realizes there's this water you can drink that like you can stay young forever, and she's like has this conflict about whether she should drink it or not. And so I liked it because it was like deep and really made me feel like really thinking about like life and what it would be like and would I do that. So I would say those are kind of my three favorite sort of types of books when I was growing up. Hi.
Hi. My name is Cece, and at what point did you become an author?
Oh, okay. So I started writing when I was like your age, actually even younger. When I was like 4 or 5, I started writing like little books and I'd make my mom like sew them together. And then when I was around your age, I was writing like short stories that were super messy and I was totally ripping off other authors. I was like, oh, I'll tell a story just like them, but put in my own characters. And so, but I kind of always knew I loved to write. And then when I was about 24, 23, I really started writing my first novel that became it was published when I was like maybe 26, and that became no 27, and that's called Love and Other Four-Letter Words, and that's for teenagers. So I guess it was around my mid-20s I started thinking like, oh, this thing I've been doing for fun my whole life, I'm gonna start doing for like for real and like for a job. So yeah, mid-20s.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my name's Milana, and I have a question.
Sure.
Is your favorite food gummy bears?
No, actually, I do like gummy bears. Like, I like that whole subset of chewy candy, like gummy bears, Swedish Fish, Sour Patch Kids. I like them, like, because I really love that, like, having to work hard to chew. Um, but I would say my favorite food, like a food that I will never say no to, is probably popcorn. Like, I am obsessed with popcorn. Like, if I walk by a movie theater and smell it, it's like all I can think about. And I will eat like buttered popcorn, like Parmesan cheese popcorn, caramel popcorn, kettle corn. Like, I just love popcorn. And guess who else loves popcorn? I love popcorn. Maple, if we have an air popper in our house, do you guys know what those are? Where it kind of comes out the top and goes over. And whenever Maple hears the air popper, she runs in the room and wants a piece. And we try to throw it and she catches it. And for her birthday, Maple's birthday is coming up in a few weeks. Guess what we're planning to do? And you have to tell me whether you think this is a good idea or a bad idea. I need a thumbs up or a thumbs down for both classes. What we're thinking about is putting all the kernels into the air popper, and instead of having the top go down so it goes into a bowl, taking the top off and just letting the popcorn fly all over the room and Maple can catch it. Good idea, bad idea? I'm seeing a lot of thumbs ups. What do you think, Maple? The funny thing is, oh, I see thumbs up. The funny thing is, Maple has no idea it's her birthday because she's a dog. So one day she's going to be walking through the house and suddenly there's popcorn just flying everywhere. Right? Good idea. Maple's giving a thumbs up. Okay, there she goes, back down again.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
My name is Anna, and how long does it take to finish a more than 100-page book?
Wow. Okay, I would say there's a ton of drafts that go into a book, and I'm sure you guys have writers' workshops, right? Where you have to write and rewrite.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have it's the same for what I do with writing a book. I write a first draft, and for about 100 pages, I would say that maybe takes me about maybe 3 or 4 months for 100 pages. And then I have to take a few weeks off and like show my agent and show my editor. And then I get it back and I have to write it again to make it even better. And that maybe takes a few more months. And then I have to get it again and write it a few more months. So I would say from start to finish, more than a year, maybe a year and a half. But there's pauses in between.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Cora, and my question is, did Ruby represent a real person, or was she just made up for a book?
Oh, good question. Everyone is made up. Even like, so Willa, the main character, even though I wrote about her having the same disability that my son had when he was little, it's definitely not my son. And so for Ruby, it's similar. I just really created her from all these different ideas I had. Like, so I might create like her identity, her family situation, from like just talking to different people and putting together all these different sort of character traits in my head. So she's all made up. Sometimes, like with Ruby, I wrote about like one of my good friends has a daughter who has curly blonde hair and got a hairbrush stuck in it once. And so when I write about Willa getting a hairbrush stuck in her hair, like I use that story. So sometimes I do borrow little bits of stories I've heard in life, but most of it's just made up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Emily, and why did you put the gummy bear on Not If I Can Help It?
Oh, so actually I don't design the cover. If you can see on the front of the book, let's see, can you see that? It's in this red, there we go. It says Scholastic. They're the publisher, and their job is to take all those pages I write and turn it into an actual book. And so they hire a designer to do the cover. They hire people to like turn it into actually bind it and like put that like the glue on so all the pages are there. And so they designed it and they email it to me because I get this thing called like, I get the right to approve it or say, oh my gosh, I hate it. And so they sent it to me and said, like, what do you think? And right away I said, oh, I love it. Because I think it's like, it's really bold, like it stands out. And it's kind of cute, but it also is like, you sort of don't forget it when you see the cover. And I really like the back too, because there's lots of little gummy bears all over the back, and that looks super yummy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Why does Willa really like Legos? Is it like something like in your life?
Oh, so my older son, who's now 19, but he was obsessed with Legos from like maybe when he was like 4 or 5 until like early high school, just loved building them, loved reading about them. And so I would say while I was writing Not If I Can Help It, there were Legos all over our apartment all the time. Like I would walk through the room and I'd be like, ow, 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 I got a Lego piece in my foot. And so often if something is kind of going on in my life, I'll just write about it. Like my younger son right now, who's 15, he's like really into baseball. So I realize every book I write right now has characters who are into baseball. So it's like just what is going on in my house. So that's part of it. The other part is I felt like Willa is not like, I wanted to show a girl who's like, I don't like stereotypes like, oh, boys like Legos, girls like whatever, you know. And I wanted a girl who likes Legos just to show that like, don't put people in boxes and say like, you know, girls can like Legos too. So that's one of the reasons I also did that, is just to show that like all sorts of people like Legos or don't like Legos. It doesn't have to be like because of your gender.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other than writing, what are your hobbies?
Oh, well, I really love dogs. And so I love going for walks and hikes with Maple. And I like to cook. And I'm a vegetarian, so I really like finding like good vegetarian recipes that are also delicious. And I love to travel. Like I love seeing new places. Like I always am like wanting to find an opportunity to go somewhere and see something new.
Hold on.
Oh, I can't hear you.
What's your favorite place you've traveled to?
Ooh, good question. Um, oh, I know. We went to Norway. Do you guys know where Norway is on the map? Yeah.
It's near Iceland.
Yes, exactly. It's in Scandinavia. It's kind of way north of Europe. And I went there because I had a friend who lives in New York City, but then spends summers in Norway with her family. And we went, and it's like mountains, like the movie Frozen. Have you guys seen the movie Frozen? Yeah, the landscape is based on Norway. And so like there's like mountains and glaciers and waterfalls, and you hike up into the mountains, and are you ready for this? The water is so clean that you just dip your water bottle in and fill it up and drink. Like we were going for a hike with my Norwegian friend, and I was like, oh, should we bring a bunch of water bottles? She's like, no, you finish yours and you just dip it into the stream. And that's how clean the water is in Norway. So it was just like really beautiful and really clean. And also, if you guys haven't guessed it yet, like I love animals. And in Norway, they don't keep their like cows or sheep in like fenced in areas. They literally walk around the countryside, the roads, the towns. So you'll just be like driving along, and suddenly a huge herd of sheep are just like walking along, and you have to like take your time and wait for them to leave. It's super cute.
All right, we have time for one more question from each class. So if we can go back to Miss Bentz's class, ask your last question, please.
My name is Isabella, and my question is, what unique thing do you like about the book?
Oh, about Not If I Can Help It?
Yeah.
Well, I really like that Willa starts out by being, well, I don't like that she starts out by being ashamed about being different. That she starts out like, but I really like that over time she realizes that her things that she feels like the differences are bad are actually like her biggest strengths. that it's not so bad to be different. And it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to keep secret, that she's like, yeah, this is who I am and I'm just fine. So I like that she like starts to feel like better about herself and not embarrassed about the ways that she's different.
Thank you.
Yay. And I want to tell you guys one thing before we say goodbye. I don't want you to get off this call and think that you could take your water bottle and just go around filling up from streams. I want you to remember that that was just in Norway when you're on a hike with a Norwegian. Okay. Will you promise me that? Yes. Can I get a thumbs up? Okay, great. Good. I just want to make sure we've covered that. Guess who does drink from streams though? Maple. I always tell her not to, but she drinks from streams, puddles, anything she can. Right, Maple? It's okay.
And Miss Soul's class. We're gonna do one last question for Miss Soul's class.
How long have you had your dog for?
Oh, we have had her, well, for about 8.5 years. And we got her when my older son was in 6th grade. And do you guys want to hear the thing he said that made us finally get her? Yeah? He asked for a dog and he asked for a dog and we asked for a dog and we said no and we said no, it's too small, apartment in New York City, all that stuff. And then one day he just sighed and he said, you know, I've given up all hope it's ever going to happen. And when a parent hears that their kid has given up all hope, guess what they do? They want to give them hope. And guess what hope looks like? Maple! There we go. So Maple is going to be 9 in December on her special popcorn day. Right, Maple? Yeah. Oh.
Well, happy early birthday to Maple.
Yeah.
All right, that's all the time that we have for today. I want to thank our author, Carolyn Mackler, for a wonderful author chat and for taking the time to be here today. I also want to thank all the students, teachers, and schools who were able to be here today and asked amazing questions. Thank you so much. And so teachers, if you want to unmute and so that the students can say their goodbyes. And we are all set for today's author chat. Thank you so much for being here.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye. 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 Thank